Go ahead, Miss Wells. How's it going?
Welcome to the final round of today's Michigan Farm Bureau Region 5 High School Discussion Meet, sponsored by the Michigan Foundation for Agriculture and DTE Energy. My name is Terry Schultz from Muskegon County Farm Bureau, and I will be serving as this round's facilitator. The purpose of the High School Discussion Meet contest is to bring young adults together to talk about issues of concern in agriculture today. For our final round, I'll ask our judges to stand and introduce themselves and what company or organization they represent. Judges?
Rob Rudat with Oceana County Farm Bureau.
Aaron Bennett with Nuevo County Farm Bureau and Beck's Hybrids.
Matt Bernier, Michigan State University Institute of Agricultural Technology.
Larry Smith, Vice President, Oneida County Farm Bureau.
Thank you for serving as a judge today. Competitors, your timekeeper is seated here.
Hello, my name is Tucker Page and I'm part of the event chapter.
I will now have each of our competitors stand and introduce themselves, stating their name and organization they represent in a clockwise direction, starting with Celia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Celia Walker, and I'm part of the Ravenna FFA chapter. I grew up raising chickens, and I know what it is like to have to sacrifice things for them. There are many issues in my community that affect farmers throughout, and I'm excited to discuss how we can find solution to those plans with you guys today. Hello, everyone. I'm Clara Williams with Coopersville FFA. In our community,
Did you want them to do their intros right now, or are they supposed to just say their name after?
Right now, so just say your name and chat. We'll come back around with you.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Yes. Hi, I'm Jenna Sanders, and I'm with the Ravenna FFA chapter.
Hi, I'm Nolan Trick and I'm with the Coopersville FFA chapter.
My name is Frankie Eddy, and I'm representing the Lowell FFA chapter. My name is Riley Miller, and I'm representing the Ionia FFA chapter.
Thank you. Competitors, you may now begin writing down any notes in the paper in front of you. I think you already did that. As a reminder, this discussion meet contest is a discussion, not a debate. The judging of the discussion is based on the competitor's delivery, analysis of the topic, problem-solving approach, and cooperative attitude in discussing with the other competitors. Each competitor will be asked to stand in voluntary order and give 30-second opening statement. The body of the discussion will follow, with the competitors remaining seated and freely discussing the topic. Following the close of the body, we will have 1 minute of silence for the competitors to prepare their closing statements. The competitors will then stand again in voluntary order and give their 1 minute closing statements. The timekeeper will hold up signs to alert the competitors to the time remaining and to signal when time has run out in each portion of the discussion. The topic for this round is: what are some challenges facing farmers or agriculture in your community? Suppose your youth organization wanted to make a difference or create change. What strategies could you use to raise awareness, organize support, and connect with local, state, or national leaders? Competitors, we will begin with opening statements in clockwise order. Please stand when you are ready to give your 30-second opening statement.
Sorry, I did already do this, but, hello everyone, I'm Celia Walker with the Ravenna FFA chapter, and, I grew up raising chickens, and so I definitely know what it feels like to have to sacrifice things for the chickens. There are many issues in my community that affects farmers, and I'm excited to discuss how we can find solutions to these problems with you all tonight.
In our communities, farming isn't just a way of life. It's the backbone of our economy and lifestyles. Aging farm populations, land access issues, labor shortages, and misinformation about food and farming are threats to these communities. As their future, we have tools, voices, and networks to raise awareness and create change. If we want to secure our future, we can't afford to stay silent.
Growing up in a farming community and around farmers, we get to see some of the struggles that they face firsthand, such as the boycotts and the tariffs and extreme weathers to extreme droughts. So hopefully today we will be able to discuss some solutions to some of these problems.
As farmers, we face many challenges in our communities, such as new housing markets, the growing population, sickness among the herd, stuff just getting really expensive. And there are multiple ways we can fix this, and I am very excited to discuss with you guys of what we can do to change this and maybe not have to deal with some of these challenges forever on.
As we know, farmers are facing many challenges that can negatively impact their farms. Some of these include rising costs and misunderstanding that the public has. I hope that today we can come to some conclusions on strategies that Farm Bureau can help us implement within these farms around our communities. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm looking forward to a very efficient and fruitful conversation with all of you about challenges that don't only affect farmers, but affect everyone, because farming does affect everyone in our community. Since we are youth, I'm excited to see the ideas that we all come up with to solve these challenges within our youth organizations that we're all involved with. And hopefully these issues and solutions that we find are used locally, statewide, and nationally. If not, we can find ways to use them.
Competitors, you may now begin your 20-minute discussion.
Talk about how tariffs can affect farmers. Could you please elaborate on that? Yeah, so as of right now, we have tariffs and boycotts in place. So we're getting fertilized, so we're buying fertilizer out of the country for usually double what we have been getting it in the recent years. Meanwhile, our exports are going for half the price. So a lot of farmers are losing a lot of money trying to export their goods overseas.
Yeah, Taylor, I'm glad that you elaborated on that, because that kind of goes with one of the points that I wanted to bring up, which is the rising cost of fuel, feed, equipment, seeds. Everything is starting to climb, and this is becoming an issue for farmers because where's the money coming from? In one of the recent discussions, we talked about how prices are matching 1970s prices. And with the things that farmers need to produce these crops and animals and livestock goods that everyone uses in the community, we need to find a solution to this cost issue. Although this rising cost might be bigger than just our youth organizations, like the problem or the prompt wants us to talk about, I think within our youth organizations, we can bring a light and project that out so we can ask for more help.
Right, and at the end of the day, it is farmers' goals to make money, so we want to find ways that they can still effectively work on their farms and get those basic needs that they need, like fuel to fuel their equipment and feed for their animals while still ending up making a profit.
Yeah, definitely. And I like how we're all mentioning, how there are, definitely rising costs in, everything that we need in fuel and, food costs in general. And so what are some ways that we can, hope to bring down those costs?
One, like I said before, although the rising costs might be just a little above our heads as we are all youth and still in high school, there are ways to bring awareness and the light out to others who can help these problems. One of the things that I talked about was getting the word out to companies who do have a greater impact than we do. Whether this be via social media or other ways to broadcast information. As you know, social media is the way to get information out quickly, or just asking for help. So one of the other ways we can do this is looking out to Farm Bureau. Maybe they know other outreach ways and things that we can do to get the word out that we are looking to help the rising costs of farmers' utilities.
Another thing that we can use, going along with that is pamphlets, because at the end of the day, a lot of farmers are older, and we talked about this in the two other things, but a lot of farmers are older and they're not necessarily on social media all the time, and it's not necessarily something like they're gonna go scroll through Facebook or something like that to see their information. And then we also come across the fact that there's a lot of AI out there, and at this point, like, AI is becoming very advanced, and it's gonna become hard for us to distinguish between what is AI and what is real. So if we send out, like, if we go to Farm Bureau saying, hey, can you help us put together a pamphlet with all this information on it to send it out to these farmers, they're gonna be getting real information. And then another way that we could do this is Farm Bureau could set up a meeting, say, like, we could call it like a meeting, and we could have these older farmers and these newer farmers, like 5th generation versus like 1st generation, like an example like that, come together and talk, because then you're getting that real face-to-face connection. And that's different than just like texting someone saying, hey, like this, and this, and then you know that you're getting real information and it's not something that's just made up by AI.
Yeah. Jumping back off of what Riley said, I do think social media is a very good combating solution to this, because a lot of leaders and important people have social media. And kind of connecting this back to the question, our goal is to connect with local, state, or national leaders. And as we all know, many of those people do have social medias. They may not be run by them, but this could definitely connect to them and bring attention to them for these matters.
Yeah, I really make a great point. And sorry, I don't mean to jump back and forth, but I really like what Frankie said about AI and the misunderstanding and the misinterpretation that's out there. This actually is another very large issue that comes along with farming, is just the misinterpretation about what farmers do. Although many farmers right now, it's harvest season, are in the fields 12 hours a day, sun up to sundown working, not all farmers are doing that.
Yeah.
So one of the other ways, and we can tie in Clara's reinterpretation of social media, one of the other ways to, I think, tie together both of your ideas is get the word out there about what farmers are actually doing. And this can be promoted on a local, state, and national level. And I think this is a problem that we as youth can help solve very efficiently within our programs. Celia, do you have something to say?
And like Frankie said, we need to spread the word, and an idea how we could spread the word is flyers or pamphlets, like how Frankie had mentioned, especially if we send them home through ag programs in school and send them home with kids. I know like my little cousins, for example, come home with, oh, like, here, I'm supposed to hand this to my mom or something, and it's information about a different subject. I think that is a great way that we're spreading word to people, and we need to continue doing that. And, to continue spreading word, because like you guys had mentioned, not everybody is on social media, and although that is a great way to get information, it's not always the most reliable. And so if it's, for example, Michigan Farm Bureau sending out, oh, please take home these flyers and show them to your parents, that would be a great way to
get those ideas spread.
Yeah, right, and it always starts with the younger generation, like that's where we want to start implementing those ideas and starting to get them thinking about what farming really is and what can I do to help in my community, what can I do like that. So regardless of if they're just bringing it home and giving it to our parents, I think we could do something where the other Farm Bureau member, or even one of us, like at like a high school, it could be like a high school program, because let's be honest, they're more likely gonna be able to listen to us, someone that's closer in age to them, than someone just like older. So we went there to like the elementary schools and did like an interactive activity and stuff like that to keep them engaged. I think that would be a great idea for us to get this information out to kids and then keep them interested in it, because I know in the past, like we've done, like this is just an example, one of our elementary schools raises chicks. And we go there as high schoolers and we explain to them like what these chicks do, like how they grow. We let them ask questions and we do activities with them. And I know it's super beneficial with them because I've had some kids come up to me that I have no idea who they are. They're like, oh, I remember you. You helped us with the chicks. So I think it can be super beneficial and honestly leave a lasting impact that can impact them later in life when they're in our generation and generations older deciding what they want to do.
Yeah, right. You kind of jumped back off of what you said with the AI problems. That definitely leads to a lot of fear and misinformation. Connecting this back to a real event that happened with Michigan beef, there was concerns about PFAS and biosolids being used as fertilizer. We definitely don't want that those kind of rumors to be spread around. And we definitely don't want people to think that, that's what a lot of farmers do. And then again, bouncing off of you again, I like what you said about us bringing awareness, because yeah, that is what the question says again. We are a youth organization, and that is very beneficial because connecting with the people around us, especially like closer in age wise, they are more willing to listen to us, and they are more willing to see from our point of views because they also share that. Nolan and Taylor, I kind of want to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, so I think it was really nice that you said that we should talk to, with your chick program, how you talk to the preschoolers and stuff, because that is when they are that's when they're most active, and that's when you can get them interested in this stuff. So they can go home and say, hey mom, hey dad, I raised a chick today. And I think that's really fun. I think we should look into stuff like that. So then they can learn more about all this kind of farming stuff. And I think that's a really good thing we do. And we also have chicks at our school. We don't really bring them up, but I feel like that could be a really big thing that we could start doing in our chapter.
Yeah, no, I think that idea about how you are talking about ways to implement with the younger kids with an FFA chapter, I assume is what you guys were talking about, maybe FFA chapter going over to elementary schools. Another way that we could implement strategy or information that's already actually being done. I'm kind of stealing this from Farm Bureau's contest that's going on right now, which is actually the hashtag State Speak Ag contest. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but it's a way that is engaging in asking high schoolers, what are your opinions on this? Can you share your information to social media in an effective way that makes people want to see it? Is it eye-catching? So I think this would be a good way to portray and ask high schoolers to spread awareness on these problems that we're talking about. So we were talking about, as an example, Clara, Frankie, and I were talking about the misinterpretation of farming. What do farmers actually do? High schoolers can portray the correct information about what farmers are doing in their local areas by using a hashtag. So I had hashtags like hashtag support local farms, hashtag youth for ag. This doesn't have to be turned into a contest, although it certainly could, to get more youth involvement in our FFA and 4-H clubs and chapters. But I think that this would be an effective way to get the youth involved in the community. And also, let's be real, farmers love seeing youth involved in agriculture.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
Okay, I would just like to say, I do really like that idea. I want to hear from Taylor. I noticed you haven't spoken.
Yes. So kind of piggybacking off of what you guys have said so far, about going to schools and teaching the younger kids. But I think there should be more outreach programs to the inner city kids and the people in the inner city that don't have any connections or any way to kind of learn more about our agricultural systems. They don't really have any connections to do that. So I know there's a lot of schools that don't have an FFA. Introducing the organization to them could even open a lot of people's minds up.
Yeah, Taylor, I like how you mentioned that, because that was one of the prompts earlier that we talked about. And that was really mind-opening to me. And I like when you mentioned how obviously inner city kids don't have the same exposure as our rural kids. So when you were saying inner city, I'm thinking Grand Rapids, their farmland is concrete paved roads. They don't have exposure to the fields and the livestock like we do maybe in our rural areas and FFA chapters. So were you thinking about maybe having like an FFA chapter come to a school and maybe promote what they're doing? Maybe like a petting zoo type thing, kind of just to expose them to ag?
There's a lot of different things that you could do, like, our Ravenna FFA chapter, we do farm days. So we go down towards the elementary school and they bring all of the elementary students through, and the high schoolers teach the elementary students about soils, different types of corn, hunting noises, calls, animals, tractors, everything you can think of. But even a chapter going to another school, think of how many doors that could unlock. And just going from school to school, that could open so many more FFA chapters.
Yeah, I like what you have to say about that. I think Farm Bureau could definitely also help with this. I know at Coopersville, where I'm from, we have a class called Seminar where we can go, sign out to a different class. Maybe like I need help with a certain subject, but we also have these days called Green and White Days, which is where we do a lot of like bonding with our peers. And I think if Farm Bureau could maybe like come in on one of those Green and White Days and give a presentation to the whole school and make it like interactive and fun, have games and prizes, I think that would definitely help the kids that are not from agricultural and farming backgrounds definitely learn more about farming, because I don't know about you guys, but I learn better hands-on and like if there's prizes involved.
Right, yeah, that's great. That's a great point that you made, because I know we talked about that in one of the other meetings, because at our school at Lowell, we have something called flex time. So Tuesdays and Thursdays for 30 minutes, you get to select where you want to go. Like whether that's, we have FFA meetings during this time, or you can go get help with math. I think it would be great if we opened that up for people to say, hey, this 30 minutes, like you can come to room whatever for Farm Bureau discussion on farming, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a Farm Bureau member talking, or if we had a farmer come in and talk about this. So then not only can people select it if they want to learn more about it, but we want people to be in there that also do want to learn about it and are not just gonna sit there and like days off into space, something like that. So I think it's great for us to be able to like let them select that, not necessarily like a whole assembly, because we know like if you're going to assembly about something you're not interested in, you're not necessarily going to pay attention. So I like that you made the point about making it interactive, because then that forces people to learn the information and like participate.
Yeah, and I really like this discussion we're having right now. I do want to kind of switch it though, if you don't mind, to more farmers' problems like on the fields. Like I know, Nolan, you mentioned in your opening statement how there's sicknesses and disease that could potentially like, you know, infect the crops and make it, oh, well, we can't eat that now. And it's just kind of, you know, wasting food and stuff like that. So, do you guys have any ideas about how we can help, the farmers like in their fields to stop maybe pollution or like erosion, how we talked about cover crops, stuff like that?
One thing that we talked about in the last one was no-till. So no-till means that you don't like go in and till up the soil. So that can help, like you said, erosion, that helps to reduce erosion in that situation. So obviously that's not going to work for all farmers, but that is something that is up and coming. So like I said before with meetings, like old farmers might not want to do this because they've been doing it for the same way for years and years and years. And that's just not something that first comes to their mind. So I think by doing these meetings, no-till could be one of those things that we bring out that these newer farmers or younger farmers are like, this is what I've heard about and this is working. So I think that no-till is one of those things.
That's great. I like how you brought that up. Just looking at our discussion prompt that we were given today, we touched a lot on local and how state and local leaders can help us solve these issues that we talked about, misunderstanding of agriculture, how to help in the fields. I'm wondering what you guys think about how can we reach out to national leaders for their help. I mean, I've been told that we can reach out to organizations such as USDA or other things, but I just want to get your guys' kind of
Yeah,
basis on that.
I love how you brought that up. In one of the rounds, I'm sorry, my group, I noticed, or I remember how we mentioned that we can have kind of more community meetings, you know, how in movies they're like, oh, you can, you know, ask the mayor questions and stuff like something like that. Doesn't necessarily need to be in that format, but where we could have some meetings. And then I was thinking how if we're all, you know, discussing like we are now, and then we could vote on a representative, and then they could bring it to, you know, a bigger organization, and we can keep moving up the ladder to get it more, nationally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way that we can go about this is the national officers in FFA, like they all have the same interests that we do, and that'd be a great source for us to go say, hey, this is something that we're doing on the national level, something like, hey, we want to implement this, we want more people to know about this versus just the people in our community, or just versus going us to the state officers, just the people in our state, and the national officers, like, come on, you don't get more popular than that in FFA, like, everyone knows them, so if they're willing to, like, if we could be like, hey, we want you to say this, or we want you to implement this, like, whether that's one of us, or like you said, a representative that we have that brings it up to those national officers, they can get the information out, and people will listen when they talk, because they are very influential in our space.
Yeah, Becky, I like how you mentioned that, but, I like how you mentioned the FFA because they are such a nationally wide organization. We're all in FFA. One of the other things that I was thinking about, just to tie it back to Michigan Farm Bureau, which we can also include FFA in this solution, was the Young Farmers and Ranchers program. So this brings together young farmers and ranchers, although they are out of high school. They come together to find solutions to problems, much like we are today. So one of the things that they can do is portray their information on a national and statewide level, because it's easy to come up with a local problem when we are the ones solving it, but sometimes it's different and it's harder to ask for help to portray our information on a national level. So one of the things that I was thinking about as far as, I'm just gonna use the example of portraying what farming is and things. So maybe the national FFA organization, just as Frankie mentioned, and the Young Farmers and Ranchers get together and discuss ideas and solutions to that problem. So maybe we, as youth, because it's talking about how youth organizations connect these people to find a solution, maybe we join them together and make the event or make the discussion meet like you talked about earlier to get them to talk about these problems and how they can spread this locally. So maybe we're just the middleman. Did you have something?
Yeah, oh, yeah, yes, I did, thank you. So, I do know that Farm Bureau has a few workshops, kind of connecting to Celia's idea of getting together for workshops and all that. But they don't always target the youth, and I think that is definitely something that they could improve on, or that we could, as FFA members, 4-H members, that we could help with, because we are the youth and we are the future of farming. And we definitely need to have a say in this, and we have a voice. We have many voices, and we need to use those. Yes, and I would like, oh, sorry, I just cut you off, but I would like to get, Nolan and Taylor a bit more involved in the conversation, if you guys have any ideas, you'd like to add.
So we're speaking a lot about getting the younger people involved, but getting kind of the older people involved and the newer movements is more so of a harder thing. So it would have to be something less social media based, like handwritten letters in the mail, or we went to a conference recently with my ag teacher, and we spoke about our stream team, and there was members of the community that came and asked questions, and just kind of questions about what we were doing, how, what, why.
Yeah.
We could hold the same things, but more in different areas and less specific on something, just farming in general, to teach more people and get more ideas and let the farmers collaborate, because they have years and years and years upon knowledge, but we're still learning, so they can teach us and we can teach them.
Yeah, Taylor, I like how you mentioned the connecting. So we teach them, they teach us, we're building that networking system. They can also give us ideas. They're teaching us what's the best way and most effective way that they would be able to solve the problems that we're having. So what solutions do they come up with that we can kind of advance or develop statewide and nationally? I think that's a really good idea too.
Yeah. And how our group had also mentioned, about, the older generational farmers and then the newer generations incoming, just piggybacking off of what you said, Riley, where, we can kind of create that network, all working together and, formulating the ideas and everything like that, where we have
Time.
oh.
Thank you, competitors. You now have 1 minute to prepare your closing statement. Audience, please remain silent while the competitors prepare their statements. Competitors in counterclockwise order, please stand and give your 1 minute closing statements, and we'll start with Riley.
Thank you all. I think this is a really meaningful and beneficial conversation for us to have about issues that we as youth can tackle and solve. Some of the issues that we talked about is Taylor at first talked about the tariffs that are going on. This led us into the conversation of rising costs of feed and crops and things that farmers need to keep their farms going. And then we talked about ways to get the word out to solutions that we found. Frankie brought up that maybe not everyone wants to use the social media platforms like we talked about. We did talk about using the hashtag in ways that you can talk or you can get the information out, but Frankie also brought up pamphlets. So older generational farmers aren't going to want to use the new methods. And then we also talked about maybe connecting on a national scale young farmers and ranchers and national FFA to find solutions to these problems. One of the main things we talked about was misinterpretation of agriculture. And then lastly, we talked about connecting and asking older farmers on their opinions to effectively find ways that farmers are going to want to solve these issues that I'm talking about.
Farmers are facing challenges that all of us can help to solve on the state, local, and national level. Some of these solutions can include sending out flyers to get information out to these older farmers that aren't necessarily on social media like all of us are. We can contact national organizations, as we talked about, the National FFA organization. They have a lot of people behind them backing them with what they say, and a lot of trust is put in them. We also talked about getting together in groups, bringing these first or second generation farmers together with these fifth and sixth generation farmers, just to get that information shared. All of this was to find solutions to problems like the rising costs and what they're going to do about those rising costs. The public misunderstanding, as Riley mentioned multiple times, there's lots of public misunderstanding. How do we combat that? And how do we make a profit without ruining our environment and making a profit? Well, like I said, all of these costs are going on. So I really appreciate all of you having a very great discussion today. And I love all of your ideas, and I'll gladly bring them back into my community. Thank you.
I think we had a really good discussion today. I think we came up with a lot of good ideas of how we can include the youth, include the older people, include that middle region of where they're the ones coming in, they're the ones maybe going out, retiring, they can't really do much on the farm anymore, and how we can still include them in that fight we constantly do of what are some challenges we face. And even how you talked about how we can include preschoolers. Sure, they're not doing much on the farm, they're not driving a tractor or anything like that, but they are still a big part of our community, and they can still do a lot for this fight we're doing against these challenges. And I think it was a good thing that you brought up the tariffs that are making stuff more expensive, but we're not really getting a withdrawal from that, and we're not getting the money we used to get. And I think that is a real challenge that we face, and I think we have gotten with a lot of conversation, a lot of solution, and I think that I will be excited to bring this to my chapter back in Cooperstown. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having that great conversation with me. And many great words and discussions. I really liked how you talked about the diseases and how that can affect farmers, because that really can a lot with how many animals they have. And then I can't remember who said it, but with the crop production, especially with the tariffs, they're not getting as much money selling their crops than they are bringing them in. So it's really hard. And like Riley said about bringing farmers, young farmers in, I also agree with bringing older farmers in and having them collaborate to get a good idea together and create maybe new and better solutions.
We've discussed many beneficial ways to combat this challenge, like involving the elderly with our new practices, reaching out to youth, and talking about what Farm Bureau offers to many of the youth organizations. I hope we can all bring this to our communities and farmers around us. Thank you so much for involving me in this discussion we've had today.
All right, I have really enjoyed speaking with you all today. I love how we mentioned the Youth Farmers and Ranchers program to get more kids involved and spread the word. We also mentioned creating more diverse networking and, spreading it to it being on a national level, and I really like that idea. Yeah, we all had very great ideas, and I think we all did super well. And yeah, I loved all of your ideas, and I can't wait to see how we can all help our
Thank you, competitors, for that excellent discussion. Audience, please help me give them a round of applause. At this time, judges and timekeeper, please follow, it's a blank, I think it's Mrs. Block, to the judging room to tabulate scores.
We did a big deal.
While we wait for the results, let's have our finalists share a little more about themselves. Please